So good morning. Welcome to another Coffee with Kirk. Today, I'm actually not doing this live. This is a recorded message. I've got an all-day training today. So I just wanted to make sure I get something out to you all. But so this is going to be completely recorded and I'm not going to be able to take any questions on this. But if you do have any questions, please reach out to me. Today's topic is going to be short and sweet, but it's actually a question that I received from a client. And specifically, it was dealing with an identity theft. And you might have seen a lot of commercials lately coming out talking about having your home stolen from you through identity theft. And there's now these services that will protect your title from being stolen from you. And the commercials are getting a lot more prevalent. So the client was asking me, is this something that should be on our radar? Is this something we should be worried about? And are these services worth subscribing to? So honestly, I didn't know a ton about the title service protection products that are out there. So it was kind of fun for me to dig in a little bit and try to find some information out on that. So I thought what I'd do is just make this kind of a identity theft in general presentation, and then specifically address the title issues that were brought up. So let me share my screen real quick. Okay. So again, today what we'll do is we'll take kind of an overview of looking at protecting your identity in general, which is extremely important, and then home title theft and protection. And the reason I say protecting your identity is important, there were over 15 million people that in some fashion had their identity stolen last year. May not be a complete takeover, may not be something where accounts are being opened. It could just be something where your credit card gets stolen and then used, but 15 million a year, that's a lot of people that are being subject to it. And the example I always like to give that really hit me was the example of Eldridge Woods. So there was a story about this gentleman, Eldridge Woods, who had about $50,000 of debt taken out in his name. And the people who stole his identity were in a auto shop to buy, I think it was a Lexus, a brand new Lexus. So they had all the appropriate paperwork. We're basically going to get this new car. But it just so happens that the car salesman knew an Eldridge Woods. And it's not a very common name, but I'm going to guarantee that you know Eldridge Woods. It's Tiger Woods. So Eldridge is Tiger's real first name, but a lot of people don't know that. So these people had stolen Tiger's identity and were about to take out a car, and they just happened to deal with a car salesman who was a golf fan and knew that kind of esoteric fact. Had it not been a golf fan that helped them, it might have been a car that they got as well. Now, $50,000 of debt for Tiger Woods he probably didn't even fight it. He just wrote the check and closed the account. So he makes that on the front nine of Augusta every year. So it's not a big deal for him. But if you and I had $50,000 of credit card debt fraudulently taken out in our name, that's a pretty big issue for us. So this is a pretty important thing to be looking at. So when you're looking at identity theft, there's a few different things you can do to protect yourself. The first one is just kind of get a credit monitoring service. You've seen a lot of commercials out there for LifeLock and freecreditreport.com. Well, these things are basically helping you to ensure that you're not going to be taken advantage of by criminals. The only problem with them is they're very reactive, not proactive. So, you don't get a report that you've been hacked or identity's been stolen or something like that until after the report's been run. It could be 30, 60 days down the road. So it's not something that can stop a thief from actually undertaking the crime. It's just something you discover later on after the crime has been done. The other thing about these is there's an annual cost associated with it. Typically, I think it's anywhere from $99 to $120 or something along those lines. And if you do get a hack, I know when companies get hacked, they'll throw, 6 months or a year subscription your way to protect your identity, and because essentially they lost your identity or they put you in a position where it could be compromised. So those are good. Those aren't bad. I don't do that myself, quite frankly. I do something else. So the second thing you could do is go to the 3 rating agencies, 3 credit agencies, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. You can go to them directly and put a fraud alert on your account. So a fraud alert doesn't shut down your credit, but if any kind of organization is running your credit to see if they're going to give you some sort of credit, whether it be a credit card, a car, a home loan, they'll get a notice that there's a fraud alert on your account and that they should take extra precautions to ensure that it is in fact you that's taking out this debt. Now, the problem is it doesn't mean it has to be done that way. So a good reputable lender will do that. They'll take the extra step to ensure that's you, but they don't have to. It just lets them know there's a fraud alert on your account. The other bad thing about this is it's only good for 90 days. So you have to continually go back in and every 90 days put a new fraud alert on there. So a lot of these credit monitoring services like LifeLock, essentially what they do for you is they take the 90-day rolling period and they just continually do that for you. So every 90 days, LifeLock's going in and putting a fraud alert on your account. Again, it doesn't shut down the ability to get credit. It just tells the lender that they should take extra steps to make sure that you are in fact who they think you are claiming to be. So again, it's a good step, but I still don't think it's the best. So the next one is what I do. It's a credit freeze. And this is especially important if you really don't expect you're going to need to take out any kind of new debt in the near future. If you're not planning on doing a new home loan or auto loan or a new credit card, you definitely want to freeze your credit. So at this point, if you put a credit freeze with the 3 credit agencies, again, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, if you put a freeze on there, when a lender runs your credit report, they get nothing. They don't get any report at all. So at that point, the lender has to say, am I still going to give out credit to this person when I don't know what their credit score is? I have no information on them. Pretty much no, you're not going to get it. I always give the example. I had an uncle who he was old school, paid everything in cash, but had his home mortgages paid for, had a rental property completely paid for, never had a credit card, went to go rent a car, and they wouldn't do it because he didn't have a credit card. So I said, all right, well, let's go get a credit card. So he tries to go get a credit card, and they wouldn't give him a credit card because he had no credit history, because he paid for everything in cash. Although he was about the lowest risk you could have, there was no credit history on him, so he couldn't get a credit card. So basically, that's what's going to happen here. The credit freeze, they're going to get no information on you. And really right now, there isn't a lending organization out there that's going to lend to anybody if they don't have some information. So the credit freeze is the best thing. Now it is a little bit of a pain. You go into the 3 agencies, you have to freeze your credit. And then if you do decide that you are going to take out some credit in some fashion, a new car, so you get an auto loan, a home equity line of credit, a new home, anything like that, new credit card, you got to go back in and unfreeze your credit. Now you can unfreeze your credit for a period of time. You could set it for a month, 2 months, something like that. Or you can just unfreeze it permanently. Usually what I do, if I have a situation where I need to unfreeze my credit, I do it for 30 days and then get done with it, whatever I need to get done, and then it freezes back up automatically. It also used to be kind of a pain because you have to pay between $5 and $10 for each agency to either put on the credit freeze or take it off. Well, the government has mandated that they cannot charge that fee anymore, so there's no charge to do a credit freeze. So it makes sense to do it. Just do your credit freeze. The other thing to think about is, and I did this, is put a freeze on your children's Social Security number. It takes an extra step there. They're going to mail something to you. You've got to prove that you are, in fact, the parent. But it does provide some protection because, believe it or not, I mean, you wouldn't think that they would go after children for this, but it's a perfect time to do it because if you have a young child, it might be 15, maybe even 20 years before they start to take out credit on their own. So that an identity theft person could take that social, open up a few credit cards, and you will never know it until probably a decade later. So it's a pretty good idea to do that for your children as well, although it does take an extra step. Okay, so that's your identity theft in general. Credit freezes are great. I highly recommend it. It doesn't take much time. You can do all of it online, or you can do it via mail if you want to do it that way and send them letters. But we'll jump into the home title theft. So as I dug into this, it's not as big of an issue, but it's one of those that if it happens to you, it's a big issue. Remember, we had 15 million per year that are compromised on their identity in some fashion. The FBI had, the thing that I could find, the FBI reported that there were 9,600 victims in 2017. So, I mean, compared to 15 million, 9,600 isn't that big of a number. But again, it's a big issue to clear it up if you happen to be one of those lucky 9,600 people. The other thing that they find is they're typically going after more elderly folks who maybe, aren't going to be with it quite as much mentally. And they also do it on vacation homes or second homes first, because people typically aren't paying as much attention to the paperwork and issues associated with vacation homes as they are their primary home. Now, this is a situation when they do this, they are actually in some way stealing your identity. In most of the cases where you've had home title theft, they have literally gotten your social security number, gone and gotten some form of ID with your name. So it's going to be an ID with their face on the ID, but your name on it. Because, I mean, you remember if you ever bought a home, you've got to pretty much get a lot of things notarized, a lot of things proven. So they would literally steal your identity and go out and then basically show it to notaries. So notaries think it's legit, and this process happens. And then what they do is they essentially sell your property to their real identity for a nominal fee, or just gift it or something like that. And now if you have a home that's unencumbered by a mortgage already, well, there's probably some banks that would be more than happy to lend you a portion of that equity you have in there. So people are taking out HELOCs or other credit lines on the equity of the home. Now, the good news is legally you're not liable for any debt taken on a fraudulent title. So from what I've read, it's not as if you're going to actually have to pay for it. But the bad news on that is you still have to deal with cleaning up the mess. So you're talking lawyer fees, you're talking a lot of time, you're talking stress. So you have to deal with those issues. So here again, it's one of those, it only affects a small number of people, but if you happen to be one of those lucky people, it's not going to be a fun endeavor without any doubt. Now, the other good news is it's still pretty extremely difficult to pull this off, for them to steal your identity, get an ID, fool some notaries, fool the county, all that kind of stuff. It's a longer shot to have this happen, but it has happened. So 9,600 in 2017, that's the latest stat I could find, but I mean, that's a lot of people. It did happen quite a bit in 2007, 2008, when there were a lot of homes, back when the housing bust happened and a lot of homes were empty. There was quite a bit more of this at that point, because people were leaving the homes. They were sitting there idle for months until the banks actually foreclosed. So most of those situations, it didn't really impact individuals so much as it did banks. So the biggest thing is, how do you protect yourself? I mean, do you want to buy one of these services that do it, or are there ways that you can do it? So some of these things that I'm talking about here are actually good, not just for protecting your title to your home, but it's just good for your identity in general. The biggest way that ID threats happen, that people who are going to steal your identity get to your information, is called phishing. Not with the F, but with the PH. So what they're doing here is they're phishing to see if they can get your information, and more likely than not, it's going to be through something online, right? You get some of these. It used to be really horrible emails that they would send you, one line, barely in English, trying to get you to click on a link. And then once you clicked on that link, you would get a virus or some sort of malware onto your computer that would then track where you're going. It may not shut your computer down. It just sits and it can view everything that you're doing online. So as you put username and passwords into different sites, it can track that. Also, if you're putting your social security information into sites, it will track that as well. So that's the biggest way they do it. Well, they're getting a little bit more sophisticated in their emails now. And it's getting more difficult to decipher if you're getting a phishing attempt, a fraudulent email, or an actual email. The biggest ones that you're going to see is pretty much they're trying to act like they're Amazon or a credit card company, Bank of America. They might throw out millions of emails out there for Amazon, figuring that people are using Amazon. And they'll say something like, something's happened to your Amazon account. Could you please log in by clicking here? And if you look, the way you protect yourself, look at what the from address, who actually emailed this to you. And it's never going to be Amazon.com. It's going to be some long, crazy email address. If you see any kind of weird email address that's sent to you, do not click on the link. And more than likely, Amazon's not going to send you an email anyway, or if they do, they'll send you a few. And then what you want to do is don't click on the link, go to your Amazon account itself, go to Amazon.com, log in, and then see if there's an issue. So you don't want to be clicking on any links in your email if you don't know who it's from. They might send things saying that, oh, you purchased this, we have a problem with your order. Bank of America will always, it's not Bank of America, but it'll be from like Bank of America or Wells Fargo, saying there's an issue with your account. They're trying to get you to click on a link. So be very, very diligent in not clicking on emails that you're not sure who they're from. And even if you get something, like if you get an email from me and, okay, you know me, everything like that. If it's not like Kirk@pickafencefinancial.com, you need to be a little nervous. But if it's something that you weren't expecting from me or another person, but they're asking you to click on a link or do something, it doesn't take much time to send an email back and say, hey, did you send me this? And at that point, the person will reply, yeah, I did send it to you. Now you know it's pretty safe to do it. The second thing you can do to protect yourself, and I think this is important, again, we're talking title insurance or we're talking about just identity in general, it's a passcode manager. So what a passcode manager does is it essentially stores all your passwords in an encrypted database. I use a service called LastPass, but there's several out there. What's beautiful about this thing is it allows you to create unique passwords for every site that you would have to log into. And it'll create a totally random password. So it's something that, it might be 15 digits with several, random letters and numbers and symbols and, something that you would never remember on your own, but you have one for each and every site that you log into. One of the problems with identity theft is if they can determine what your password is to one site and you use the frequent password to several sites, well, now they've got the key to get into several places. So they might get something innocuous like a Yahoo login where you're checking your email. But if you're using that for your Bank of America account and Wells Fargo account and TD Ameritrade account, well, now they've got the riches, right? Now they've got what they want. So this passcode manager, essentially every site you get, you can create a password. I do it to the maximum number of positions that the website will allow. So if a website allows you to have a 21 digit password, I'm using 21 digits. And I don't have to remember it. It's in this LastPass. Now you might say, well, could LastPass be hacked? Well, yeah, I guess it could. But it is another encrypted database that would be very difficult for them to hack. Just make a really long password for your LastPass and then just make sure that you're protecting it. But this really creates a much higher level of security when you're going online, because if an ID theft gets one of your passwords, they're not going to get into any more than one site. So that helps you. The second thing is you want to make sure you're checking your credit report on your own. So the government's mandated that you can get one credit report per year from all three agencies. So if you go to annualcreditreport.com, that's where you can sign up to get all the three agencies. Now you can get them all at once and then check each of the three agencies to see if there's any issues. Or what you could do if you want to be a little more strategic and you have some time to do this, you could split it out and do one every 4 months. So there you're checking every 4 months to see if there's any issues with your credit report. This is just good in general for your credit, but it also could show you if something's happening with your home. If you see a new mortgage on your Social Security number and you didn't take out a mortgage, then there's probably something going on with your title. The other big thing is to, just pay attention to your annual bills. If you get your tax bill in the mail, or if you get other, water bills, utility bills, other things along those lines, maybe home insurance bills, and all of a sudden you're not getting those bills, you probably got an issue. You might want to check and see what's going on there. So just, paying attention to your bills. This is also why they target vacation homes or second homes a lot, because they figure that, maybe that stuff slips through the cracks a little bit more because you're not at the vacation home. Maybe the bill goes there. It could get lost. That's basically what they're looking at. The other thing you can do is just check your title at the county, your county records every so often. Just go in, maybe once or twice a year, make sure the title is still in your name and there's not any encumbrances. If you don't have a mortgage, there shouldn't be one on there. Just check it out. That's basically what you need to do to protect yourself there. And also you need to be aware of some of these sources that claim to help you. Some of these title lock sites that are out there. Actually, some of the ID theft people have gone out and created websites saying that they're a service that protects your title. And then you give them all your information and they steal your identity. So you have to be very careful if you're going to even try to hire some of these, title lock companies to help you out. You need to make sure they're very reputable. So the biggest thing, how else could you do it? So we'll start off with the title protection services. So these commercials that you're seeing, what are they really doing? Well, all they're doing, as far as I can see from my research, is they are checking with your county to ensure that your title is as it should be, that it's in your name. And if you don't have a mortgage, that there's no mortgage on it, or that there's no new activity on that title, so that they can protect you from losing your home. So it doesn't seem like any of these provide any kind of assistance if you do have an issue. So if you have legal fees or other costs associated with this identity theft, I haven't seen any of them that actually help you there. So it's still one of those, they might let you know there's an issue, but then it's going to be up to you to clean up the mess. So, I don't know if you're really getting your money's worth with it, unless you like more frequent periodic checks and you don't want to do it yourself. The other question that people have is, should your title insurance help you out here? So when you buy a house, you probably paid for the title insurance. Would that help you if there's an issue now with your title? The answer is no. The title insurance is only there to protect you for any activity or any new claim that might pop up from before you bought the property. So if you buy a property and then all of a sudden there's, somebody tries to put a lien on the property, or there's an issue with the actual, title or something along those lines, the title insurance will kick in at that point because it was something previous to when you purchased it. From the day you purchase it on, title insurance does not help you with that. So that you're not really getting any kind of advantage there. And I'd like to thank Howard Strauss of the Strauss Law Firm. I conferred with him to ensure that this is, in fact, how it operates. So that is true. So the title insurance, I know it's sometimes not fun to pay that when you do it. And it's only good for previous claims from the date you purchased the property, not anything after. So really the biggest thing is just be diligent, maybe check your county records every so often, check your credit report, avoid the phishing attempts, get a password manager. If you're doing those things, you're probably doing a pretty good job of protecting yourself. And this is important stuff just because it's a real pain if you become a victim to it. Again, for those of you who are not clients here, got to throw in my little disclaimer. This is not financial advice, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. You can read this right here. So I appreciate it. Again, sorry I'm not here today. This was just one of those Saturdays I had kind of all day training. So I'm basically going to have Tiffany, the other financial planner in office, just run this while I'm doing the training. But if you do have questions on this, or if you have other topics, so this topic came from a client and it was a very interesting topic and feel very pertinent. So if you have issues that you're thinking about, please shoot me an email. That's what I'm trying to do with these Coffee with Kirks, get information out to you that I think other clients have. Usually if you have a client or if you have a question, other clients are going to have the same question. So I'd like to get that information from you. So again, have a great Saturday, and I appreciate you stopping in. Thank you.